I watch a whole lot of other NBA YouTubers. They were the biggest inspiration for my channel's creation, and they continue to be one of the biggest inspirations for the content I now create. So just know that this video is in no way me trying to hate on Rusty Buckets. I am a fan of his, and I'm also just someone who is struggling to make content during finals week at university right now. With that out of the way, Rusty Buckets very recently made a video titled The Biggest Playoff Disappointments This Year, and I gotta say, I kind of disagreed with the entire thing. So I would like to just go through here and give my counterpoints to the points that he made in that video. This is just my own opinion, and I'm going to start off with the one that I disagree with the least, being the injury issue. Injuries always suck in the postseason, in the regular season. We never like to see players get hurt. Even if you're dealing with players who you may not particularly like, you want to see them lose when they're healthy. You don't want to see them lose because of injuries, or their teams lose because their best player was injured, or even just a role player was injured. It sucks to see. But while injuries have certainly caused me frustration as a Sixers fan thus far this postseason, I will say that the product has still been pretty darn good in spite of injuries. The Sixers Heat series, from a casual perspective, has arguably been improved because of Joel Embiid's injury. If the dude was healthy, we are 100% looking at a 3-1 lead, if not a 4-game sweep for Philadelphia. But because he was hurt, we now have a 2-game apiece series going back to Miami, and it's very intriguing to see who will win. Bucks Celtics, Middleton is hurt. Obviously, it would be ideal if he was healthy, but since he is not, we are getting a more competitive series as a result. Arguably the best series of the playoffs. Mavs Jazz in the first round. Luka missed, I believe, 3 games of that series. The Jazz still went down 2-1, and instead of a 4, maybe 5-game series, we got 6 games that were relatively more competitive, and we got some great games out of Jalen Brunson during that series. I'm not saying that it's a good thing the injuries happened, I'm just saying that the content has not been impacted as much as we may usually see as a result of all the injuries. Compared to last year's playoffs, where seemingly everyone was injured, this year really hasn't been all that bad, and even the series where someone was injured haven't thus far been completely flip-flopped because of those injuries. Chris Middleton did not cause the Bucks to lose the Bulls series. The Sixers still have a very real chance in this Heat series, etc. Injuries suck, but they haven't sucked as much as they could have. And that's really his only point that I somewhat agree with. Like, I understand where he's coming from. I would just like to point out that it's a little bit weaker than it normally would be. But the rest of his points, like the point about NBA discourse being bad, I really don't understand. Now, to be clear, NBA discourse freaking sucks. It's been bad for as long as I've been a fan, and it seemingly only gets worse year after year. Just look at the MVP race this year. All season long, everyone with their idiotic arguments, especially against Jokic. Guys, my fellow Sixers fans especially, shut the heck up. Please, you're embarrassing me, and you're embarrassing the few other rational people in our fan base. Joel Embiid, whether he deserved the MVP or not, was in no way robbed. Like, if he deserved it, it was by the slimmest of margins. And Nikola Jokic did not win because he's white, and he did not win because of the VORP stat. I keep seeing MVORP, like, for, you know, making fun of Jokic because he's the advanced stat guy, because a bunch of you apparently listen to Nick Wright and think that Nick Wright is a smart basketball mind. Please, 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 shut the heck up, you sound so stupid. At least make a real argument for why Embiid deserved it, and not Jokic has good advanced stats, so that makes him not a good player. Like, it's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. This is still going on in this postseason. I see what he's talking about with the Warriors and the Grizzlies, and the weird thing about morals with them. Draymond Green is a dirty player. Dylan Brooks did a dirty play there. That really should be the end of the story. Like, this whole weird thing where, like, they're battling for, like, moral superiority, I don't care. Just, I would like players to stop flagrantly fouling other players. It's pretty annoying to me. And the other discourse going on as well, it is frustrating, yes. But off the court stuff, and this contributes to the stuff he was talking about with the fans as well, where fans have been annoying, like the freaking weirdos who were messing with Chris Paul's mother and his wife at the last game. That stuff is off the court, and I don't feel like it impacts, like, maybe this is just me, but I feel like if you let that impact your enjoyment of the on-court product, that's kind of on you. Like, I've never found the NBA discourse to impact my enjoyment of basketball. I think if you let that happen, that's kind of your own personal choice. And, like, I do understand it, but I also don't think that's a valid reason to say that these playoffs have not been good. The product on the court has been great. Regardless of how annoying the MVP discourse was, watching Embiid, Jokic, and Giannis put up insane stat lines night in and night out while going for the award was phenomenal to watch, and I would absolutely love to see a similar MVP race again next year, even if we once again have to listen to a bunch of morons who don't know what they're talking about. Same thing going on here in the playoffs. Whatever narrative you want to pick out, and you can pick out a whole lot of narratives so far, it should not impact your enjoyment of the on-court product. I think that is more of you needing to be able to block out all that other noise than the playoffs not being good. I don't think that is a fair criticism of the NBA playoffs so far. Last but not least, the point I want to touch on is the level of competition in this postseason. Rusty was talking about how these playoffs have not been very competitive because there haven't been any 7-game series, and I think this is just a weak point as well. I think the playoffs have been pretty solid. I'm not going to necessarily say this is Rusty being biased, but I think he might be a little bitter because despite Middleton getting hurt, the Bucks still beat the Bulls in only 5 games, and he's a Bulls fan. Like, that's a series that's on your team that should have gone at least 6 games, and y'all blew it. I'm sorry, you did. Sixers-Raptors was a phenomenal series. Once again, we had to listen to the stupid foul discourse, but the series itself was very, very good. Game 3 was the best game I have seen so far in these playoffs, and there have been quite a few very good ones. I'm biased because I'm a Sixers fan. Obviously, there's probably been a better game objectively, but a lot of great games all around. Timberwolves Grizzlies was a 6-game series, and yes, I know the Timberwolves choked away the lead they had, sometimes 2 20-point leads in one game, in all of the games they lost, but it was still a very fun, competitive series between 2 very fun, energetic young teams who we enjoyed seeing play. The Suns and the Pelicans was unexpectedly good. Once again, Devin Booker getting injured was not a positive, but it let the Pelicans have a real chance. We got some good Jose Alvarado memes going on as he went and he was pestering Chris Paul. It's been great. The Mavs-Suns series just turned around to 2 games apiece. Absolutely shocking me, but it's turning out to be a competitive series. Bucks-Celtics has a very good chance of going to 7. Heat-Sixers has a very good chance of going to 7. And even though the Warriors are now up 3-1 against the Grizzlies, they barely won Game 4 despite Ja Morant not playing, and assuming he comes back in Game 5, seeing this series go to 6 or maybe even 7 games is not remotely out of the question. That has been, once again, a pretty darn good series so far. So when he says that the postseason thus far hasn't been very good, I really don't know what he's talking about. Like, you can't ask for a whole bunch of Game 7s in the first round. I'm sorry, you just can't. Bucks-Bulls was maybe the worst series of the entire first round, and that's sad to say. Hawks-Heat was also pretty bad, but it was interesting to see how well Jimmy Butler played. Jimmy Butler and the Heat, like, Jimmy Butler's just been phenomenal for that team, and seeing Trae Young get clamped made a lot of people happy. I personally don't dislike Trae Young as much as most people, but a lot of people enjoyed seeing him get clamped up, so, once again, series that people like to see. So I'm just saying, I think the playoffs have been very competitive, and saying that there haven't been any 7-game series in the middle of the second round, which has been a very competitive second round so far, I think you're being really petty here, and I just do not think that is fair to hold against this playoffs. We've had several 6-game series that have been pretty enjoyable, even a couple of the 5-game series, even the 4-game series between the Nets and the Celtics. That was as good as a 4-game series can possibly be, in my opinion. So I think the playoffs have been pretty darn solid so far from a competition standpoint. Right now, the title is wide open. You can argue up to like 6, maybe even 7, or all 8 of the remaining teams have a chance to win the title. I really hesitate to put my money on the Grizzlies, the Heat, or the Mavs, but they've been kind of crazy this year. Who knows? Who knows? Any of those teams could certainly make the finals at the very least. So this playoffs has been absolutely phenomenal from a competition standpoint, in my opinion, especially when compared to the last, I don't know, like 5, 6, 7 seasons of the NBA playoffs. The last one that was this good at all was 2019, and even then, you had some injuries getting in the way. So this postseason has been very, very good in my opinion, and once again, I do watch a whole lot of Rusty Buckets videos. I'm a big fan of his, so this is not me trying to hate on him, and for the record, you should all probably check out his channel, although those of you who watch my tiny channel almost certainly watch his, if we're being honest. So thank you all for watching, and please, for the Rusty fans out there, don't come at my throat. I just think he was a little bit off with this video.